Now, before the presentations of M3's newspaper and magazines, let us all welcome the champion of Open House 2025 storytelling from M3.1, Supita Samsung or Marthena.
Judges, lend an ear. The silliest story is coming near. Laugh along and you will see the three sillies, silly spree. Hi, my name is Supita Samsung. My friends call me Marthena. I am an M3 EP student at Shalom Kwan Street School, Pisanulong. Get ready to be silly with me. Once there was a farmer and his wife who had one daughter. She was to marry a gentleman. Every evening, the gentleman had supper at the farmhouse. One evening, the daughter went down to the cellar to fetch the cider for him. When she looked up at the ceiling, she saw a mullet stuck in one of the beams. She said to herself, "Suppose him and me were to be married and were to have a son, and he was to grow up to be a man and come down into the cellar, and the mullet was to fall onto his head and kill him." Her mother began to wonder what was taking her so long, so she went down after her into the cellar. There she found her crying, with the cider running all over the floor. "Whatever's the matter?" said the mother. "Oh, mother, look at that horrid mullet. Suppose we were to be married and were to have a son, and he was to grow up to be a man and come down into the cellar, and the mullet was to fall onto his head and kill him." "Dear, dear," said the mother, and she started crying too. After a bit, the father began to wonder why they hadn't come back. So he went down into the cellar. There the two sat crying, with the cider running all over the floor. "Whatever's the matter?" said the father. "Oh, why, look at that horrid mullet. Suppose our daughter and her sweetheart were to be married and were to have a son, and he was to grow up to be a man and come down into the cellar, and the mullet was to fall onto his head and kill him." "Dear, dear," said the father, and he sat down beside the other two and started crying. Now, the gentleman was tired of being in the kitchen by himself, so he went down into the cellar. There the three sat crying, with the cider running all over the floor. He turned off the tap and asked, "Why are you three sitting crying?" "Oh, why, look at that horrid mullet. Suppose you and our daughter were to be married and were to have a son, and he was to grow up to be a man and come down into the cellar, and the mullet was to fall onto his head and kill him." The gentleman burst out laughing, reached up and pulled out the mullet and said, "Oh, wow, terrible lots, but I've never met three such sillies before. Oh, I shall start my troubles again, and if I can find three bigger sillies, then I'll come back and marry your daughter." Then he bid them goodbye and went on to his travels. First, he came to a cottage with grass on the roof and saw a woman trying to get the cow up a ladder. He asked her what she was doing.
I'm going to get the cow up the ladder to eat that beautiful grass."
She'll be safe, for I shall tie a string onto her neck and pass it down the chimney and tie it to my wrist, so
She can't fall out without my knowing.
oh, you poor silly! You should cut the grass and throw it to the cow, said the gentleman, but the woman thought it was easier to get the cow up to the roof. The gentleman hadn't gone far when the cow tumbled off the roof and pulled the woman up the chimney where she got stuck. Well, that was one big silly. He traveled on and came at an inn. It was full, so he had to share a room. The next morning, he was surprised to see his roommate hang his trousers on the chest of drawers, run, and try to jump into it. At last, he stopped and said,
It takes an hour to get into my trousers every morning.
"How do you manage yours?" The gentleman burst out laughing and showed him how to put them on. He said that he would never have thought of doing it that way. Well, that was another big silly. He traveled on and came to a village where people stood around the pond using rakes and brooms. He asked what was going on.
Why the moon tumbled into the pond and we can't get her out?
They said. The gentleman burst out laughing and told them to look into the sky and that it was just the shadow in the water. So, there were a whole lot of sillies bigger than those 3 sillies at home. Finally, the gentleman turned back home and married the farmer's daughter. The 3 sillies. The story teaches us not to let imaginary fears control our actions. We should focus on real problems, not imagined ones. Furthermore, look for practical solutions to situations. All of us has a little silliness in us, and that's what makes life more enjoyable. Thank you for listening.